When my son-in-law told me to go to my room like a naughty child, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled. It was a small, quiet smile that probably confused him more than if I had thrown a fit. You see, I've learned something in my 67 years. A loud argument is like a summer storm. It's noisy, it's scary for a minute, but it passes and everything dries out. But a quiet smile, that's a seed, and you never know what's going to grow from it. His name is Mark. My daughter, Sarah, married him 5 years ago. He's a big man with a loud laugh and an even louder opinion. For a long time, I told myself his loudness was just his personality, that he was passionate, that he worked hard and deserved to relax. That evening, I was sitting in my favorite spot by the window in the living room. It's an old armchair, the fabric worn soft on the arms from decades of use. My husband, Thomas, bought it for me the year we got married. It was the first real piece of furniture we ever owned. He's been gone for 8 years now, but sometimes, when the light hits it just right, I can still feel him in that chair. I had a cup of decaf tea on the side table, and I was watching an old black and white movie on the TV. The kind where the women wear long gloves and the men always know the right thing to say. It was my little slice of peace at the end of a long day of babysitting my grandson, Leo, and making a pot roast for dinner. I heard the front door slam. That was my first clue. A door that slams isn't brought in by happy hands. Mark's footsteps were heavy on the hardwood floor, each one a little declaration of war. Sarah was behind him, carrying the mail and looking down at her phone, trying to disappear into the screen. Mark walked right into the living room, not even a hello, and stood directly in front of the TV, blocking my movie. "Hey," I said softly, trying to peer around him. "I'm just finishing this." He didn't move. He just looked around the room, at my chair, at the family photos on the mantelpiece, at the blanket I was crocheting, as if he was seeing it for the first time and finding it lacking. Then he grabbed the remote from the coffee table, my remote, and clicked the TV off. The silence was so sudden it was loud. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. "Game on," he said, not really to me. He was already scrolling through channels. "Living room's mine now." I sat there for a second waiting. I looked at Sarah. She was still in the doorway, her eyes glued to her phone. I waited for one word from her, just one. Something like, "Mom was watching that," or "Mark, be nice," anything. She didn't look up. She just shifted her weight from one foot to the other and then mumbled something about putting Leo's toys away, and she was gone, off to another part of the house. Safe. Mark finally looked at me, a flicker of annoyance on his face that I was still there. "What?" he said. "Go on, time for you to turn in, Grandma." Turn in, like I was a farm animal, like I was a problem to be put away until morning. And that's when I smiled. I looked at his face, so sure of himself, so confident in his place in my world. I smiled and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't anger. It was a cold, clear realization like ice water on a hangover. This wasn't his house. This was my house, and I had just been told to go to my room in it. I stood up slowly. My knees popped, as they always do. I put my teacup in the kitchen, walked past Sarah without a word, got my purse and my keys from the hook by the door, and I left. I closed the door quietly behind me. No slam, just a soft, final click. I walked down the driveway, got in my old sedan, and drove to a motel on the highway. I paid cash for the night, lay down on the scratchy bedspread, and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time in 5 years, I heard myself think. And what I thought was, this ends tomorrow. To understand why that moment broke something in me, you need to understand how I ended up there, shrinking in my own living room. My husband, Thomas, and I bought that house 42 years ago. It was a fixer-upper, a little 2-bedroom bungalow with a big backyard. We painted every room ourselves. We planted that maple tree in the front yard when it was just a twig. We raised Sarah in that house. We celebrated her first steps, her first words, her high school graduation, and her college send-off in that house. When Thomas passed, the house became my anchor. It was full of him, his tools in the garage, his favorite coffee mug in the cabinet, the garden he loved so much. I couldn't leave it. The mortgage was paid off years ago. It was mine, free and clear. A solid, quiet piece of security in a world that suddenly felt very big and very empty. Sarah was my only child, my heart. After Thomas died, she was my rock. She'd call me every day, come over for Sunday dinner. When she met Mark, I was just happy to see her so happy. He was ambitious, a salesman, always talking about deals and investments. He seemed to have a plan for everything. They got married, and for a while, things were good. They rented a small apartment in the next town over. Then the rent went up. Then Mark's job had a rough patch. Then they had Leo, my beautiful grandson. Suddenly, their little apartment felt like a sardine can. It was Sarah who first brought it up. She came over for tea one afternoon, looking tired. Leo was just a baby, and she had dark circles under her eyes. "Mom," she said, hesitating, we're struggling. The rent is killing us. Mark is working so hard, but it's just not enough right now." I knew what was coming, and my heart, my foolish mother's heart, was already saying yes. "We were thinking," she continued, "just for a little while until we get back on our feet, maybe we could move in with you. We'd pay you rent, of course, and help around the house. It would just be temporary." Temporary, such a dangerous word. I looked at her, my little girl, so worn out. I looked at a picture of Thomas on the mantle. He would have wanted me to help. He would have opened his home in a second, so I did. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, reaching for her hand. "This is your home too, always." The first few months were lovely. Having a baby in the house again brought it to life. Mark was helpful, fixing a loose board on the porch, carrying in the groceries. Sarah and I would cook together, just like old times. We'd sit on the couch after Leo went to sleep and watch our shows. It felt like a gift. But a little while, as it often does, stretched into a year, then 2, then 5. The rent they paid was a small, symbolic amount that barely covered the increase in utilities. But I didn't care about the money. I cared about my family. The problem was, slowly, inch by inch, I started to disappear. It began with small things. Mark would come home from work and immediately turn the TV to sports, even if I was watching something. "Just checking the score," he'd say, but the channel never changed back. Then it was the kitchen. He'd rearrange things to make more sense. My spices, my pans, all moved to where he thought they should go. "It's more efficient this way, Celeste," he'd tell me, patting me on the shoulder like I was a sweet old lady who didn't know any better. Then it was the garden, Thomas's garden. Mark decided he wanted to put in a grill and a patio set. He dug up half of Thomas's rose bushes without asking. When I got upset, Sarah tried to smooth it over. "Oh, Mom, it'll be nice. We can eat outside in the summer. Mark works so hard, he deserves a place to relax." I stood there, looking at the empty space where my husband's roses used to be, and I felt a little piece of myself get dug up and thrown away with them. The invitations stopped, too. My friends from the bridge club used to come over for coffee. But after a while, Sarah would look at the calendar and say, "Oh, Mom, Mark has a big client dinner that night. The house needs to be quiet." Or, "Leo has a playdate. It's going to be chaos." So I stopped inviting them. My house, my friends, and I was the one who felt like an intruder. But before we continue, I want to extend a very special invitation to you. Subscribe the channel and leave a like. This helps me see that you support me and enjoy my stories, and comment down below which city you are watching us from right now. Let's continue. The final straw before that night was about my chair. Mark came in one day with a huge, ugly recliner he'd bought on sale. "This is going right here," he announced, pointing to the spot by the window. My spot. "But Mark," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be, "that's where my chair goes." He looked at my old armchair with its worn arms, and he just laughed. "That old thing? Come on, Celeste, it's an eyesore. We'll move it into your room. You can watch TV in there on that little set. This is for the family room now." The family room, as if I wasn't family. Sarah saw my face. She came over and gave me a hug. "It's just a chair, Mom, and this new one is so comfortable for Mark's back. You want him to be comfortable, don't you?" So my chair was exiled to my bedroom, and I learned that in my own home, I had a room, and the rest of the house belonged to them. That night with the TV wasn't new. It was just the first time he said it out loud. Go to your room. He wasn't asking. He wasn't even telling. He was ordering. And my daughter, my own flesh and blood, let him. She dropped her gaze and let him turn me into a child in my own home. So you see why I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who finally understood the assignment. They had drawn the battle lines. They just didn't know who they were dealing with. The motel room was beige and smelled faintly of bleach and old cigarettes. But it was quiet. No TV blaring sports. No heavy footsteps. No feeling like I had to tiptoe to the bathroom. I slept better than I had in years. The first thing I did the next morning was call my lawyer. Not a fancy, big city lawyer, but a man named Mr. Henderson who helped Thomas and me with our wills decades ago. He's retired now, but he still keeps an office above the hardware store in town. He's known me for 40 years. He knew Thomas. He knew the house. Margaret, he said, his voice crackling over the phone line. It's early. Is everything all right? No, George, I said. It's not, but it's going to be. I need your help. I need you to be my lawyer for one last thing. I drove to his office. It smelled of old paper and dust, just like it always had. I sat in the same wooden chair I'd sat in when we signed our will. I told him everything. About the roses, about my chair, about the TV. I told him about Mark telling me to go to my room and about Sarah looking at the floor. When I finished, George just shook his head slowly. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Margaret, he said, his voice soft, you know that house is yours, sole and separate property. You owned it before they ever met. I know, I said. They have no lease, no contract. They are, in the eyes of the law, guests, month-to-month tenants at will. You have every right to ask them to leave. I know that too, I said. But I didn't come here to ask them to leave, George. I came here to tell them, legally, officially, with papers that scare people who don't read the fine print. He chuckled, a dry, rusty sound. You always were the practical one. All right, let's draw up a notice to vacate. 30 days, it's more than generous. While he was typing up the document on his old computer, I used my phone. I had a list. I'd been making it in my head all night. First call, the utility company. My name was on the bill. Yes, hello, I'd like to schedule a disconnection of services for the address on file. The electricity, the gas, and the water. Effective immediately. The woman on the phone tried to tell me about a 48-hour waiting period, but I explained calmly that I was the homeowner and I was beginning major renovations, and the house needed to be empty of all tenants for safety reasons. It would be done by the end of the day. Second call, the cable and internet company. The same thing. My name, my account, my decision. Please disconnect all services. The customer service agent asked for a reason. I said, I'm choosing a different provider. It wasn't a lie. I was choosing a provider of peace and quiet. Third call, the bank. I have a separate account that I use for household expenses. I'd given Sarah a debit card linked to it years ago, for emergencies, for groceries, for things for Leo. I called and had that card canceled immediately. The woman on the phone confirmed the change. Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mrs. Holloway? No, I said. That's everything. By the time George handed me the official-looking notice to vacate, it was almost noon. The document was crisp and white, stamped with the county seal. It stated, in very clear language, that the occupants of the property were required to vacate within 30 days. I'll have my grandson serve this, George said. He's a deputy sheriff now, makes things official. I thanked George, paid his small fee, and walked out of his office. The sun was warm on my face. I felt light, almost dizzy. I had cut the cords. I had pulled the plug. I had done what I should have done years ago. I found a little diner and ordered a turkey sandwich and a cup of soup. I ate slowly, watching the people come and go. My phone was in my purse and I had turned it off. I didn't want to see the frantic calls and texts I knew were coming. I imagined them waking up late, Mark stumbling to the kitchen for his morning coffee, only to find the coffee maker was cold. No lights, no internet. The TV a dead, black screen, then going to the store for breakfast and having his card declined. The panic, the confusion, the rage. I felt a twinge of something. Guilt. No, it wasn't guilt. It was the ghost of the old me, the woman who always put everyone else first. I told that ghost to be quiet. This wasn't about revenge. This was about consequences. They had built a life on the foundation of my kindness, and they had forgotten I was the one who owned the foundation. Later that afternoon, I got a hotel room downtown, a nice one with a view of the river. I unpacked my small bag, hung up my sweater in the closet, and put my toothbrush in the bathroom. This was my home for the next 30 days, my sanctuary. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number, but I knew it was Mark. It just said, "Where are you?" I didn't answer. Then another from Sarah, "Mom, the power is out. And the internet. Did you forget to pay the bills?" I didn't answer that one either. Then my phone rang. It was Sarah. I let it ring. Then it rang again and again. I finally turned it off. I ordered room service, a plate of pasta and a glass of red wine, and watched a movie in bed. A comedy. I laughed out loud and the sound surprised me. It was my laugh, not the quiet, apologetic chuckle I'd developed over the last 5 years. It was my real laugh. The next morning, I turned my phone on. There were 17 missed calls and a dozen text messages, ranging from confused to angry to pleading. The last one was from Sarah, sent at 2:00 a.m. "Mom, please. Mark is losing his mind. You have to tell us what's going on." I texted back one simple line. "You will receive an official document today. Read it carefully. We can talk after that." At 10:00 a.m., my phone rang again. This time I answered. It was Sarah, and she was crying. Mom, a sheriff just came to the door. He gave us a paper. It says we have to leave." "Mom, what is this? Is this some kind of mistake?" "It's not a mistake, Sarah," I said, my voice calm and quiet. "It's a notice to vacate. You have 30 days. But why?" "Because Mark was grumpy about the TV. You're throwing us out because of the TV." "I'm not throwing you out because of the TV, sweetheart. I'm asking you to leave because for 5 years you both forgot this was my home. You let him take it over piece by piece. You let him talk to me like I was nothing. And you never once stood up for me. You never once said, 'That's my mom's house.'" She was sobbing now. "That's not fair. We were struggling. We needed help." "I know you did," I said, and my heart ached for her even now. "And I gave it. I gave you everything I had. But somewhere along the way, you both started taking and you never stopped. You started treating me like a guest in my own home, and I'm done being a guest." "Mom, please, Mark is saying, he's saying awful things. He's saying if we have to leave, we're getting a divorce. He says he can't live like this." I closed my eyes. It was the words I'd been waiting for, the proof that I was right. "Sarah," I said, as gently as I could, "listen to me. If your marriage depends on my house, my electricity, and my bank account, then it's not a marriage. It's a lease agreement, and I just gave my 30-day notice." There was silence on the other end of the line, broken only by her sniffles. 30 days, I repeated. "I will not fight you. I will not argue with you. If you need to come get boxes, you can come during the day when I am not there. I'll make sure the utilities are turned back on for the next month so you can pack in comfort. But at the end of 30 days, I need my house back. All of it." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady. The hardest part was over. The seed I had planted with my smile had begun to grow. The next few weeks were strange. I was a woman without a home, living in a hotel, and yet I felt more at home than I had in years. I went for long walks by the river. I visited the library. I had lunch with old friends I hadn't seen in ages. I felt like I was rediscovering myself, the woman I was before I became grandma and mom, and a piece of furniture in my own living room. But I also kept an eye on things from a distance. Mr. Henderson, my lawyer, would give me updates. He told me Mark had lawyered up, sending angry letters about unlawful eviction and emotional distress. But George just filed them away. Bluster, he called it. He has no case. The law is on your side. I had the utilities turned back on, as I promised. I didn't want Leo to be cold. I wanted this to be as painless as possible for them, just final. Sarah called me a few times. The calls were hard. She'd go from crying to angry to pleading in the space of a minute. "He's sleeping on the couch," she told me one day. "He barely looks at me. He blames me for all of this." "Do you blame yourself?" I asked her. She was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. I wanted everyone to be happy. I tried so hard to make everyone happy." "You can't make other people happy, Sarah. You can only be responsible for your own happiness. And when you spend all your energy trying to smooth things over for other people, you end up letting them walk all over you. And you let them walk all over the people you love, too." A week before the move-out date, she called again. Her voice was different, tired but clearer, less frantic. "Mom," she said, "I found something." "What is it?" "Bank statements, credit card bills. I was looking for a box of Leo's old baby clothes in the back of Mark's closet, and I found a shoebox full of papers. Mom, the money we were supposed to be saving for a house, it's gone, all of it. He wasn't investing it. He was gambling, online, for years." I let out a long, slow breath. I wasn't surprised. I had seen the signs. The expensive watches, the new golf clubs, the way he flinched every time a bill arrived in the mail. "There's more," she whispered. "He took out credit cards in my name, maxed them out. I have thousands of dollars of debt I didn't even know about." I felt a wave of sorrow for her, so deep it almost knocked me over. This wasn't just about a disrespectful son-in-law anymore. This was about my daughter's life being dismantled by a man she trusted. "Oh, honey," I said, "I am so sorry." "He lied to me, Mom, every single day. He made me feel guilty for not having enough, for making you feel uncomfortable in your own home, and all along he was just stealing from us, from our future." "What are you going to do?" "I already did it," she said. "I told him to leave. I told him I'm filing for divorce. He's staying at a motel now. He was so angry, Mom. He said some horrible things, but I didn't look away this time. I just told him to get out." I had to sit down. My legs felt weak. This was the moment I had prayed for, the moment I had hoped would come. My daughter was finally seeing clearly. "I'm so proud of you, Sarah," I whispered, tears finally pricking at my own eyes. "I'm so proud of you." "I should have listened to you," she said, crying again. "I should have seen it. He took over the house, he took our money, he tried to take you away from me, and I let him." "You didn't let him, sweetheart. You loved him. There's a difference. And now you know that's what matters." The day before the move-out deadline, I drove to the house. It felt strange pulling into my own driveway. The maple tree in the front yard was starting to turn color. The garden was overgrown, choked with weeds where the roses used to be. I used my key and it still worked. That was a relief. The house was a mess. Boxes were everywhere, half-packed. The air was thick with the smell of dust and stale pizza. Mark's big recliner was still there, in my spot by the window. But my old armchair was back in the living room, pushed against the wall. Sarah must have brought it out. I heard footsteps, and Sarah appeared in the hallway. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were clear. "Hi, Mom," she said. "Hi, sweetheart." We just looked at each other for a moment. Then she walked over and hugged me. It wasn't a quick, polite hug. It was a real one, the kind you give when you're saying you're sorry without using words. "He's already gone," she said into my shoulder. "He came with a truck this morning and took his stuff. The recliner, his tools, his clothes. He didn't even say goodbye to Leo." I held her tighter. "You're better off, you both are." We spent the rest of the day packing together. It was therapeutic, throwing away the trash of the last 5 years. We found more evidence of his secrets, payday loan statements, collection notices. With every piece of paper we threw in the trash, Sarah seemed to stand a little straighter. By evening, the living room was almost empty. Sarah had her things and Leo's things stacked neatly by the front door, ready to be moved to her new apartment the next day. My old armchair was back in its rightful place by the window. I sat down in it for the first time in what felt like forever. It was like coming home. Sarah sat on the floor next to me, her head resting against the arm of the chair, just like she used to do when she was a little girl. "I'm scared, Mom," she admitted quietly. "Being on my own, being a single mom, paying for everything myself." "I know you are," I said, stroking her hair. And you're going to do it anyway, because you're stronger than you think, and because I'm right here, not as a roommate, not as a tenant, as your mom. She looked up at me. Can we still come for Sunday dinner? I smiled, a real smile this time. Every Sunday, but you have to leave by 8. Grandma needs her beauty sleep. She laughed, a watery, broken laugh that was the most beautiful sound I'd heard in years. The first Sunday after they moved out, Sarah and Leo came for dinner. It was just the 3 of us. I made a pot roast, the same recipe my mother used to make. The house was clean and quiet. My chair was by the window. The TV was off. Leo, who's 6 now, ran around the living room like a little tornado. "Grandma, can I see my room?" he asked. He still called it his room. "It's not your room anymore, sweetie," I said gently. "It's the guest room, but you're always welcome to be a guest here." He thought about that for a second. "Can I still play with the trains?" "Of course you can. Guests get to play with the trains." It was a good day. We ate, we talked, we laughed. Sarah told me about her new job. She'd gotten a promotion at the marketing firm where she worked. It was more money, more responsibility. She was proud of herself, and it showed. "I paid all my bills this month," she said, almost shyly. "Every single one, on time, with my own money." That's my girl. As the sun started to set, Sarah looked at her watch. "We should get going. Leo has school tomorrow." She hesitated. "Is it okay if we come next week?" "I'm counting on it." After they left, I washed the dishes by hand, listening to the radio. Then I went into the living room. The light was golden, streaming through the window. The house was quiet, but it wasn't an empty quiet. It was a peaceful quiet, a contented quiet. I looked at the spot on the wall where Mark's big, ugly TV used to hang. It was bare now, just a couple of small holes from the mount. I'd have to get those patched. I looked at the spot on the floor where his big recliner used to sit. It was just empty space now, and it felt wonderful. My life was simple again, and it was mine. The next week, Sarah came over on a Wednesday evening without Leo. She looked serious. "Mom, I need to ask you something," she said. "Okay." "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I've been talking to a therapist. She's helping me understand why I let things get so bad, why I didn't stand up for you or for myself." I listened. "And I realized something," she continued. "I was so afraid of conflict, so afraid of making Mark angry, of losing him, that I lost myself, and I almost lost you." "But you didn't," I said. "No, because you saved yourself, and in doing that, you saved me too." She took a deep breath. "I'm not asking to move back in. I love my little apartment. It's small and the plumbing makes weird noises, but it's mine. I'm sorry. For every time I didn't speak up. For every time I let him treat you like you didn't matter." I reached out and took her hand. "I forgive you, Sarah. I forgave you the moment I saw you standing in the hallway that night, looking at your phone. I knew it wasn't you. It was the fear. I just had to wait for you to find your way back." She squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. "But," I said, with a small smile, "that doesn't mean you get to pick the movie when you come over." She laughed. It was a good sound. The months passed. Autumn turned to winter. I got the holes in the wall patched and painted the living room a soft, warm yellow. It felt like springtime, even in the cold. I joined a book club at the library. I started going for walks with a neighbor, a widower named Arthur, who was teaching me the names of all the birds in the park. It was nice. It was comfortable. And every Sunday, Sarah and Leo came for dinner. We'd eat and play games and talk about our weeks. Our relationship was different now. It was deeper. It was based on respect, not just obligation. She wasn't my little girl anymore. She was my friend. One Sunday in the spring, Sarah came alone again. Leo was at a birthday party. We were sitting on the porch, watching the rain. The garden was starting to come back to life. I had planted new flowers, bright ones, where Mark's grill used to be. "The divorce was finalized," she said quietly. "It's over." "How do you feel?" She thought about it. "Free, I mean, it still hurts. It hurts that I was lied to for so long. It hurts that Leo's dad is the man I thought he was. But underneath the hurt, there's just space. room to breathe, room to figure out who I am without him. That's a good feeling, I said. That's the feeling of being at home in yourself. She nodded. I know where I got that from. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the rain on the porch roof. It was one of those perfect, peaceful moments you want to last forever. Mom, Sarah said, breaking the silence, can I tell you something that might sound strange? Of course. I'm grateful for what happened. For that night when Mark turned off the TV and told you to go to your room. It was the worst night, and it was the best night, because it broke something that needed to be broken. It forced us all to see the truth. I looked at her, my daughter, sitting on my porch in my house, talking about gratitude, and I knew exactly what she meant. I know, honey, I said. I feel the same way. It's been 2 years now. 2 years since I left that motel room and started fighting for my life. My house is my home again. The garden is full of flowers. Thomas's roses are gone, but I've planted new ones, different colors. It's my garden now, not his. I still miss him every day. But the missing isn't a sharp pain anymore. It's a soft ache, a warmth, like the feeling of an old, soft blanket. My friend Arthur and I still take our walks. Sometimes he stays for dinner. He's a good cook, better than me. It's nice to have company. But I also love my quiet evenings alone, in my chair by the window with a book or an old movie. No one tells me to turn it off. No one tells me to go to my room. Sarah is doing well, really well. She got another promotion. She's dating a nice man named David, a teacher at Leo's school. He's quiet and kind, and he asks me about my garden. The first time he came for Sunday dinner, he helped me clear the table without being asked. Sarah caught my eye across the kitchen and gave me a little smile. She saw it too. She knows the difference now. Leo is 8. He's all legs and missing teeth and boundless energy. He still calls my house Grandma's house, and that's exactly what it is. He and I built a birdhouse together last weekend. We hung it in the maple tree. He's already claimed it as his, which means he'll probably fill it with rocks and action figures, and that's just fine with me. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Mark. I don't feel anger anymore. I feel a little sad for him. He was so busy trying to own everything that he never learned how to appreciate anything. He had a home, a family, a woman who loved him, and he threw it all away for the sake of being the king of a castle that was never his. The biggest change is in me. I used to think being a good person meant being a doormat, that loving your family meant giving them everything, even your self-respect. I was wrong. Loving your family means teaching them what respect looks like. It means showing them, by example, that you have boundaries. It means saying no, even when it's the hardest word in the world to say. Because a yes that costs you your soul isn't a gift. It's a sacrifice. And no one asked me to make that sacrifice. I'm not the quiet old woman who used to tiptoe around her own living room. I'm Margaret Holloway. I own my home. I own my life. I own my voice. My chair is by the window. The light is golden. The house is quiet, but it's the good kind of quiet. It's the sound of peace. And you know what? If someone walked in right now and tried to turn off my TV, I wouldn't smile. I wouldn't get my keys and leave. I'd stand up, look them right in the eye and say, I don't think so. Not today. Not ever again. Because this isn't just a house. It's my story, and I'm the one who gets to write the ending. So if you're out there and you're feeling small in your own life, in your own home, in your own skin, listen to me. You're not a guest. You're not furniture. You're the owner. And it's never too late to pick up the keys. Thanks for listening to my story. Take care of yourselves and take care of your home.